Today, we're going to take a really close look at the work of Munshi Premchand. He was an absolute master at holding up a mirror to the human condition, you know? He had this incredible, almost uncanny ability to show us who we really are, not just the person we think we're supposed to be. And when you read his stories, you can't help but ask yourself some pretty deep questions. Like, what happens when your principles clash with your reality? What's the actual price you pay to get power? And maybe even more interesting, what's the hidden cost of just getting comfortable? So in this explainer, we're going to dig into those questions by putting two of his most brilliant short stories right next to each other. We're going to see what happens when these powerful, deeply held ideals, one political, one romantic, run headfirst into the messy, complicated real world. But, to really get the impact of the fall, you've got to see the heights our characters start from. So first, let's meet them at the very peak of their convictions. That moment when their ideals are just burning so brightly they light up their entire world. Okay, so on one side we have Mahashai Mehta from the story Adarsh Virodh. He is this incredible lawyer, a fierce, incorruptible critic of the government, basically a pillar of integrity. Then on the other side we have the narrator from Abhilasha, and she is a true romantic idealist, just so completely wrapped up in love that the smallest thing from her husband feels like the greatest prize in the world. For both of them, their ideals are their identity. But here's the thing about ideals. They can be pretty fragile. And now we get to see how reality starts to chip away at them. It's not a sudden thing. It's a slow fade. We're going to trace how the subtle pull of power, of status, and even just simple comfort begins to quietly corrode these once unshakable beliefs. For Mehta, the change starts the moment he's offered a taste of the very power he used to fight against. He gets appointed to the Viceroy's Council. And, to his surprise, he's kind of charmed by the sophisticated English officials he always saw as the enemy. He starts getting used to the comforts, that velvet armchair of his new office, and before you know it, he's making excuses, rationalizing the very system he built his entire reputation on tearing down. And just listen to how he explains it himself. He says the job comes with this heavy burden of responsibility, and that his freedom is destroyed. It's incredible, right? He frames his choice to compromise as a kind of noble sacrifice, that he's lost his freedom to criticize. It's the perfect justification for abandoning everything he once stood for. Now, for our romantic idealist, the change is quieter. It's more domestic. In the first year of marriage, a simple little bouquet of flowers was this priceless treasure she'd keep in a box. By year 5, daily bouquets, expensive gifts, they've all just become routine, empty. The more she gets, the less she feels. The initial fire has just cooled down. And the contrast is just wow. Back then, an angry, even demanding letter from her husband felt real. It felt passionate. Now, these perfectly polished love letters feel completely hollow. The sound of his voice used to send a jolt through her. Now she barely even registers that he's in the same room. That raw, authentic connection has been replaced by a comfortable but totally lifeless performance. So, both of these slow fades have been building up to something. They each lead to this powerful moment of truth, a climax where our characters have to face the real-world consequences of their faded ideals. For Mehta, that moment is public, and it is absolutely shocking. He gives a budget speech where he defends massive spending on the military over things like public education and health. He actually argues that national security is more important than lifting people out of ignorance. It's a complete 180-degree reversal from the man who was once the champion of the people. And he doesn't just stop there. He then turns on the very people he used to fight for. He calls the educated class cowardly and selfish, basically blaming the victims to justify his new allegiance to the establishment. It is just a breathtaking betrayal of who he used to be. Now, the narrator's climax is private, but it's just as earth-shattering for her. She stumbles upon an old letter from her husband. And it's not poetic, it's not polished at all. It's demanding, it's a little immature, but it is vibrating with real, raw, desperate emotion. It's a threat that's born from genuine longing, a feeling she suddenly realizes has been missing for years. And the fallout from Mehta's change? It is utterly devastating. His own son, Balkrishna, who's studying abroad, just can't handle the shame of his father's public betrayal. After being humiliated for trying to defend him, he takes his own life. And he leaves behind this heartbreaking note. Suddenly, this conflict of ideals isn't some abstract debate anymore. It has become a matter of life and death. So what happens after all this? Both characters have watched their ideals crumble, but their stories end in profoundly different ways. And that difference tells us something really important about what disillusionment actually is. Let's just lay it all out. Mahashe Mehta, our political idealist, gets corrupted by power and status. The result? Absolute tragedy. Public disgrace and the death of his son. But the narrator, a romantic idealist, gets corrupted by routine and comfort. And her outcome is, well, it's different. Her breakdown doesn't lead to total ruin, but to the possibility of a new beginning. There's this line from a newspaper in the story that just sums up Mehta's fate perfectly. He wasn't just influenced by the system, he was completely absorbed by it. He became the very salt in the mine. He became the thing he once fought against, and the price for that, it was irreversible. His story is a warning. But for the narrator, the crisis actually becomes a breakthrough. Her raw, honest pain shatters that comfortable routine. For the first time in years, she sees her husband cry. She can feel his heart beating with real emotion again. Her pain creates a bridge back to the authenticity they lost. Her journey, well, it offers a little sliver of hope. So what is Premchand's mirror really showing us in the end? What can we take away from these two powerful parallel stories about our own lives and the ideals we try so hard to hold on to? And this really is the question he leaves us with. Is losing an ideal always a complete tragedy, the way it was for Mehta? Or is there something valuable in the struggle itself? Maybe the longing for the ideal, the abhilasha, that feeling of striving for something pure. Maybe that's more valuable, more human, than actually getting a comfortable, passionless version of it. It's a pretty powerful thought to chew on. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the timeless work of Munshi Premchand. If you enjoyed this analysis, please do like, share, and subscribe. We'd love to see you back for more.